The World Series is now tied at 2 games apiece because the Toronto Blue Jays woke up on short rest and heard the entire free world talk about what a unicorn Shohei Ohtani is. And I don't know if they internalized it and said, to heck with that. Also, it helps when, their lineup is mostly intact. George Springer not in there, but it wasn't like the game was on the line and all of a sudden a bunch of guys who weren't starters were in the game because the game is now 19 and a half hours long and they're running out of baseballs. And they also had a pitcher of note of their own, albeit not an all-star, all-world hitter in his own right. But Shane Bieber had a lot to say about last night's action. Don't forget, he's a Cy Young Award winner. He's been there and done that, except a World Series start. And sure enough, when Shohei Ohtani stepped to the plate after getting the Blue Jays out in the top of the inning, he wasn't intentionally walked, although it looked like it was one of those intentional intentional walks, right?
Sure.
He did, in fact, get on base.
Accidentally on purpose?
To start the game for 10 consecutive plate appearances to put himself on base. But Bieber got out of that, and the Blue Jays wound up falling behind again, only to have Vlad Guerrero Jr. step to the plate and get a spinner of an Ohtani mistake right around the letters, and he just smoked it into the left field stands
New Jack City
to give the Blue Jays a lead that they would not relinquish because they are a team that is equipped to beat the Los Angeles Dodgers in a way last year's American League East opponent for the Dodgers in the World Series were not. Big to do in New York City when Buck Martinez, longtime major leaguer and longtime Toronto Blue Jay announcer, said the Yankees weren't as good as the Blue Jays or weren't as good as many people in the Yankee organization or New Yorkers thought that they were because they don't put the ball in play. They strike out too much, and if they don't homer, they lose. And I understand last night the Blue Jays homered and won. But the Blue Jays keep showing you why they are a better team equipped to beat the Dodgers than last year's New York Yankees. And it's not just because they officially now have more wins in this World Series than the Yankees were able to get against the Dodgers last year. It's because the Blue Jays do put the ball in play. They've got guys who can get base hits, not just seeing eye base hits. They have guys who can come up with an extra base hit now and then and also put the ball in play instead of striking out like most of the Yankees are. And I know I'm making it about another team right now. I'm just trying to compare and contrast the two teams that come from the AL East over the last 2 years to take on the Dodgers in a World Series. And the Yankees didn't have to deal with Ohtani being A, healthy, B, off the hook, and C, a pitcher. And, Andres Jimenez was a perfect example. Last night, he's down in the count, winds up getting the count in his favor, and loops a base hit to left field instead of striking out. And guess what happened? The Blue Jays scored a run. And then the next guy gets up and has a productive out to knock another guy in. And then another guy gets a base hit. And then another guy has a productive out. And then you get into the Dodgers bullpen a day after the pen has been used excessively, and suddenly you can break this thing open a little bit. And Blake Trinan, who I think is maybe the last guy other than Tanner Scott that a Dodger fan wants to see in the game right now, he comes in and he gives up a couple of extra runs, and that's all she wrote. And the Blue Jays don't even have to use their closer, Jeff Hoffman, because they didn't want to if they didn't have to because he pitched 2 innings the night before. So now they're kind of set up for tonight's Game 5. Now, obviously, the Dodgers didn't use Sasaki either last night, but the Blue Jays come away with the win against Ohtani when Ohtani is just as on fire as he could possibly be. And Dave Roberts admitted what we all do know, but sometimes it's tough for us to see, certainly in the media, that Shohei Ohtani is mortal.
He's mortal, but there's also a lot of energy, obviously, on the pitching exerted. But they made good pitches. There were some backdoor cutters, some breaking balls, crowding them a little bit, and I thought his intent tonight at the plate was good, but you look back at those at bats, they made good pitches on him. They really did.
Do you think it's unfair to put that much pressure on him to expect him to do those extraordinary things every night?
I don't. I know he doesn't see it as pressure. I would say that's what he expects from himself. It's part of being a fan and seeing great things from great players. So every time he steps up, I expect great things to happen, and maybe unfairly.
Okay, so the Blue Jays are now even with the Dodgers in the series. They're 2-1 in World Series games that aren't wildly off the hook and take 90 hours to finish. So they got to feel good about themselves going into Game 5 tonight. No, and this is a fun World Series. I hope everybody
Very
out there
much so,
is tuning in. Certainly to ESPN Radio. Boog Sciambi's going to come in. Boog Sciambi's coming in hour number 2 to talk about it. And whether you're watching it or listening to it, this has been wildly entertaining. And George Springer, John Schneider let everyone know during the broadcast last night, he thinks that it's possible that Springer could come back tonight.
Wow.
Which would be something else. Mr. October for a Game 5 tonight in Chavez Ravine. Hey, you made it all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Check us out every single day streaming live on Disney Plus and the ESPN app 12 to 3 Eastern.